Hey guys, today I thought I'd do a little bit of a different bit of content. As you can see here by my screen, I'm going to be doing a bit of a update and a talk over the first 2 months of my brand new 190 liter aquarium. Basically talking about some of the problems that I had, and and showing off some of the benefits, and just having a good chat. All right. So first, I guess I will start. Roughly about two weeks ago, late July, I ended up having to move the tanks that were in my stream room. As some of you guys who've seen my stream before will remember the fire-bellied newt paludarium and the fish tank that I had behind me. They got moved out to the lounge, and my new 190 liter tank got moved in. So the new tank is roughly more than double the size of the old tank, which was about 70 liters. So 190 liters is obviously quite a huge step up, and the fish will love it, and it allows me to get more animals as well, basically as well. So empty tank behind me. Basically, the first step that I had to do here was get the hardscape sorted. So the hardscape is things like the substrate and any sort of wood that you're going to be putting in there, and rocks and that sort of stuff. So basically, I went down to my local fish store, which is not really a local fish store because it's on the opposite side of Christchurch. It's over in Redwood, right next to. It's actually just literally about 50 meters away from Willowbank. If you guys want a bit of a distance scale, and I live in basically kind of like the center of town. But yeah, so it's the Redwood Aquatics. I don't remember the address, but you can look it up if you want. Basically, I head out there and I pick out some substrate and some rocks. So the substrate, this might be a little bit boring for some, but right. So the substrate is a mixture of a grey sand, a nutrient-rich substrate, and then essentially a space filler. So if you see in some of the pictures that I'll show you later, you'll see kind of two distinct layers, which is the sand and then the space filler. Then underneath the space filler is the nutrient-rich substrate where the plant's roots will all sort of dig down to. So, and I picked out some really nice flat river stones, actually, which were perfect for what I wanted. Like nice big flat stones to allow my algae eaters to have something to graze on. Basically a surface to grow algae on. But basically, immediately encountered a huge issue. So I really wanted a type of wood called Malaysian spider wood. Sorry, not Malaysian spiderwood, just spiderwood. The other wood was Malaysian bogwood. So basically, I went to Redwood, and I've in the past I have bought spiderwood from them. But for whatever reason, the importers of spiderwood into New Zealand, there was a bit of a stock problem, right? So there was literally no spiderwood coming in for the next about month and a half. According to Redwood, they said their next order would be coming in at about in a month and a half's time. So basically, what I did from there is I called every fish store and pet store in Christchurch, and basically said, I need a large piece of spiderwood. Like, do you have any large spiderwood? 50 to 60 centimeters long, roughly the same amount of height tall. Basically, absolutely zero. Like there's literally nothing in Christchurch. So I was just complaining about it in the Discord, and I even looked on Trade Me and that sort of stuff. But I was complaining about it in the Discord, and Dylan actually told me to basically check out Facebook Marketplace, and he sent me a link to a guy named Mark who lived just down the road from me, who basically what he does is he goes down to the beach into the river mouths, and he collects interesting pieces of wood, and he cleans them, and he makes sure they're all sterile and basically ready to go into a fish tank. And he also he does the process called sinking, which is where you basically have to you get the wood waterlogged so that it will stay sinking in the fish tank, and basically it won't float. So that normally takes about 2 months. So it basically skips a whole fucking process. And he also scapes the wood. So you'll see in some pictures later that he has actually provided me with like a good like 5 or 6 Java ferns and a good amount of Java moss. When Java moss is actually really good, and a lot of fish stores won't sell it to you because it's actually primarily used for breeding. And basically like fish use it to like they scatter their eggs in the Java moss. So it's actually really cool that I've got a nice amount of Java moss, because I've tried to buy it in the past from 2 different fish stores and they tell me, nah, sorry, it's not for sale. And that's a bit of a nightmare, right? But basically, with the help of Mark, I managed to get an absolutely stunning piece of driftwood. And this was on the 2nd of July, okay? So, 2nd of July, I came home from Mark's place and I just and you can actually see in the background I'm playing Final Fantasy while taking pictures. But yeah, basically, this is actually 2 pieces of wood glued together. So, this long piece here, it comes all the way down, and you can see my mouse pointer, you definitely can. Comes all the way down to here, and then this thick bit in here is this wood, but then this bit here is a whole nother piece of wood that goes out, and it actually goes out of the water and then back down again. I absolutely just, when I saw this piece of wood, like he had it like just there, and it's even got like nice bits of bark on it. I just thought it looked so cool. And underneath here there's lots of like cave structures for the fish to sort of swim through, and yeah, basically I just immediately fell in love with this thing. So that went in the tank. I don't have any pictures of the tank empty because with just the substrate in it, because that'd be kind of silly. And you'll see the water is a little bit murky. That was actually my first major mistake when setting up this fish tank, right? So one of the common things, like what you basically have to do with substrate is you have to wash your substrate. It's basically just dirt, and it's just like during the packing process, like it's dusty, right? So I washed these bottom layers. You can actually see like that's the filling layer, and then the darker bit down the bottom is the nutrient layer. So I washed those layers, and that was all good. But this sand, I think, just in my excitement, for getting the tank set up with this piece of wood and everything, I just straight up forgot to wash the sand. And that'll come back to bite me a few times in this video. So there's a couple more pictures here. That's just a bit of a weird wonky picture of what this looks like. You can actually kind of see that this wood is like different from this wood, and you can see this branch comes up here. And they meld together perfectly. Like you can't even notice that they're different pieces of wood, especially now with the plants sort of like growing over them. So basically, that's the 2nd of July. And now, basically, the next sort of pit stop is on the 10th of July, when I bought the plants. So I ordered the plants actually, the weekend. I basically ordered them probably about the 5th or the 6th of July, and they arrived on the 10th, and I planted them on the 10th. So the plants that I chose were some chain swords, which I just honestly, great plant, but also I love the name. It's such a chain sword. It's an Amazon plant, which is these little green bushels down here, and they send out runners, and they will basically just, this whole front of the tank in probably like a year's time will be completely, this little area down here in the bottom right should be like just a garden of this green stuff. That's them. I also bought this beautiful green tiger lotus, which with time will reach the surface and will make lily pads. Like it's a true lotus. So it also has the potential to bloom, and I think that'd be super cool to watch that thing bloom. Down here you can also see a mixture of rotala and ludwigia. So the rotala are they grow in like this vine at the beginning with these like little round leaves. You can see them there, but later on they become like they almost look kind of like a rosemary bush. So you'll see some of them growing later once we get to them. And then the ludwigia are these sort of like darker green. They've got like a red color on their stalk, and like on the underside of their leaves is kind of red. You can kind of see it there. They will grow into like little bushes, which are probably about 15 centimeters tall is what I would expect from them. These other ones here on the back, these stork plants, those are blue hygrophila, which is a plant which will grow all the way to the top. And currently I'm looking, and one of them has actually almost reached the top, just over my left shoulder, which you'll see later. On top of that, we have that's the plants, basically done. But on top of that, one of the interesting things here is you can actually see that the wood is starting cycling, right? So you're going to hear the word cycle a hell of a lot in this video, because it's all talking about the nitrogen cycle, and basically bacteria needs to bloom and then go away, right? So you can see on the right here, this piece of wood, which is funny because it's actually like it's the other piece of wood. This wood barely had any bacteria on it, but this one like it gets all the way up to like here in future images. But this is basically a bacterial film, right? Doesn't damage the plants, doesn't damage the fish. In fact, lots of fish will eat it. But it's basically just a process of it's basically just the tank, the piece of wood needs to cycle. It needs to go through its bacterial phase, etc., etc. So around this time as well, as soon as the plants went in, I started working on the full nitrogen cycle for the tank. So this is probably a bit of a boring part for some of you, but the nitrogen cycle is it is literally the most important part of setting up a fish tank, and even maintaining a fish tank. The nitrogen cycle is basically, you put food into the tank, the fish eat the food. They create waste in the form of ammonia. Ammonia also forms in plant matter decomposing, all that sort of stuff, right? When there is ammonia in the tank, ammonia is just toxic, right? Ammonia is poison. Like, it'll kill all your fish. It'll kill your plants. Your plants will get ammonia burn on them, and it's just not a good time. You can just pour a bunch of ammonia in the tank, and you just kill all your fish. So the key part of the nitrogen cycle is cultivating ammonia so that a specific type of bacteria can eat that ammonia. This is anaerobic bacteria, a bacteria that eats air, which is not anaerobic, it's the other one, aerobic or whatever. The one that consumes oxygen and turns the ammonia into nitrite. Then once you cultivate enough nitrite, you begin to develop the bacteria that will eat the nitrite, and it will turn it into nitrate. And nitrates are not toxic, or they're toxic in high volumes, but nitrates are what your plants in the tank will feed on. Like you all like ammonia is common, nitrite not so common, but nitrates are super common. Y'all would have heard of that before. It's basically just fertilizer. Fertilizers, nitrates. It's what the cattle and dairy industry is doing to our rivers, flooding it with nitrates and that sort of shit, which is causing huge issues. That's a different story. But basically, a new tank takes roughly 4 to 6 weeks to fully cycle. So I'll talk a little bit later, but I have taken a few cheats to basically speed up the process, which the first one I did was ghost feeding. So that's basically feeding an empty tank, right? So I'm literally just feeding a tank the same way I would feed it with fish, but I'm just leaving the food in there and just letting it decompose and create ammonia. So here we will jump a little bit forward from the 10th of July to the 22nd of July, okay? So you can already see the difference in those two images from here to here. You can see the plants have already grown a little bit more. You can actually, this guy over here on the left, you can see him. He's just barely above the heater. He's actually up here now, and he's about to start creating his little rosemary-like bushes, which will be red in coloration. And you can also see that the water is a bit clearer, but it's still just murky because, like, I just made that huge mistake of not washing the sand, right? And you can see this bacteria is actually growing up. It's climbing up here a little bit, and you can actually see the first touches of, I'm going to call them pests because they weren't wanted, but they are beneficial for the tank. You know, I didn't put them in here on purpose, but right here you can see a snail, right? So that is I believe that is a ram's horn snail. There are also trumpet snails in here, and actually, I didn't even know this existed, but a freshwater limpet, which I've only known them in saltwater, but New Zealand apparently has freshwater limpids, which are super cool. So 3 different types of, I'm going to say mollusk, They're not gastropods. Maybe they're gastropods. I don't know. There are 3 different types of snails. So you can see the plants are starting to grow. You can see like this hygrophila here, this one, like twice the size of what it was just not that long ago. Look at it down there, and then just 10 days later, boom, it's up here. And he's the one. He's now up here, like he's almost touching the top of the tank, which is really cool to see. Everyone's vibrant and green. You can see a nice healthy dose of algae is growing on the rocks, which is what I want. But up here, you can actually see the start of another problem, which is a very annoying type of algae. So we'll just basically move forward here past the 22nd onto the 24th of July. So the 24th of July is when I basically like almost gave up on this tank. I thought it was going to be a fucking nightmare. But anyway, we'll get to the 24th. Oh, that's a nice picture of the Lotus where these 2 big leaves were actually growing out of water. So they died when they started getting in the water. But it's grown 3 new ones from before, which is awesome. And these Ludwigia are growing really well. You see this one's come all the way up to here. So 24th of July was the day that I was taking a close look at my tank and I found a fuckload of worms. And and other kind of microorganisms as well. But the one that I was worried about was the worms, because in fish tanks there's a common type of worm called a detritus worm is what we call it, which is just a shit-eating worm, healthy for the environment. But there's another type of worm called a planaria worm, which is actually a predatory worm which will eat. Well, it will like latch. If a fish is asleep, it will like latch itself onto it, and it like almost like a parasite, right? So and they inject a venom, like a paralytic venom. So because I bought plants from a fish, like basically a plant farm, there's always the chance of pests coming in. And I took the risk of not dipping my plants. Like sometimes you can dip them in I believe you dip them like a bleach solution, which will kill anything that's on the plants. But I decided like, look, I'm getting them from a reputable place. I got them from Hollywood Fish Farm, which is the like one of the biggest suppliers in New Zealand, probably the biggest supplier in New Zealand. And I should have probably dipped them, but I was like, oh, whatever. So this is me taking some nice pictures of these worms, because everything that I read showed detritus worms as long, thin worms, and planaria worms as long worms with a triangle-shaped head, right? So going through this, look, I'm looking at these worms, and like honestly, they kind of look like they have triangle-shaped heads. And I was just like, oh no, I've got planaria worms in my tank. It's going to be a disaster. I'm going to have to medicate the tank. It's like, fuck it. Like, and they'll be like, it's almost impossible to get rid of them. It's like almost nothing eats them because they're like poison. It's just a disaster. But I did a little bit of research and I searched around on Reddit on r/fishkeeping and r/aquariums. And I actually found a post of a guy who had filmed a video of exactly what this is. These little worms crawling around the glass. They're probably about 0.5 centimeter, 5 millimeters big. And he posted a video and it looked exactly like my worms. And everyone was like, no, those aren't planaria. Those are detritus worms. They're just young detritus worms. So adult detritus worms get long and thin, but the young ones look like this. And I was so happy when I read that. And everyone was confident these are not planaria worms. So that disaster was avoided pretty quickly. But that was a whole afternoon of Googling and researching. And this is the thing, dude. Like, honestly, keeping fish like this is not it's not as simple as just slap them in a bowl. You have to keep an eye on them. You have to make sure they're not sick. You have to look out for diseases and all that sort of stuff. And it's just, yeah, I mean, I've lost plenty of fish to disease and sometimes fish get sick and stressed and they just die. It happens. So you have to be very, very on top of this. So some more pictures of the worms close up. You can actually see, you see the little triangle head here. It's quite clear that there's kind of a pointed head, but it's not like planaria worms is like an arrow, where this one is pointed. It's a little bit different. And you can see they're literally all over the glass. They were floating around in the water. There was like literally thousands of them. But that's fine. Detritus worms are perfectly normal, and my Corydoras catfish will eat them all, as will the Danios. They are predatory fish. They will absolutely eat them, no problem whatsoever. This is the Microsoft PowerPoint slide designer just sort of giving me different templates. So I just clicked on them. I wasn't too fussed. Okay, here is so that was the 24th of July. The 25th of July is just an update picture, because at this point we hadn't had like a full update for like a week or so. So I took a picture. I think I sent this to my parents just so they could have a look. And it's not a great quality image, but actually this might have been I think this was a screen from one of my streams, so that's why it's not the perfect quality. But you can see this algae, this bacteria is still cycling down here, and we've got the start of this very, very annoying algae right here, which looks like a piece of plastic almost, just hanging on there, blowing in the, I want to say wind, but it's actually just the water flow. And yeah, this has been an absolute bastard until recently. And you can see on the left there that Rotala, you can see it's kind of behind the O, but you can see it's just splitting off into its little bushels, and it's growing really well right now. After the 25th of July, we skip forward to the 27th. Yeah, the 27th of July, where I've just taken a few close-up pictures of these, our friendly little pests. You can see three of I believe these are ram's horn snails. They get their name from the swirly horn, like a ram's horn. And this is the Ludwigia. You can see it's growing lots of little shoots out already. It's going to be a beautiful plant, this one. But yeah, as you can see, those are the ram's horn snails, and this is a close-up on one of the Trumpeter Snails, which you can see he's clearly gets his name from like the trumpets sort of shaped horn, the cone-shaped horn sort of thing that he has. I think I called these things Trumpeter Snails. I think these are actually just like maybe I'll have to Google it, and maybe I'll put it in the description exactly what type of snail these are. But I believe they're called Trumpet Snails. From the 25th of July, we basically take a jump to the 27th of July, which should be... Oh, actually, no, just kidding. Did I skip the 27th? Oh, no, I didn't. Let's just go back a slide. This is the 27th. Yeah, you're right. So from the 27th of July, we skip to August the 5th. So August the 5th is when I decided that the tank, I've been ghost feeding the tank for about a month. The water quality is looking good. It looks like it's looking cycled. It's looking healthy. I also I actually upgraded the existing media. So the media is something that the bacteria sticks to, so that it can, live, basically. Bacteria grows on surfaces, not in the water. So, I actually upgraded from the existing media to Seachem's, Seachem Matrix, which is every liter of Seachem Matrix is 700 liters of surface, right? Which is insane. So basically, it's a super porous little rock full of holes. So this is a 190 liter tank. Inside of this tank, there is 1 liter container of matrix. So in this 190 liter tank, just in the filter media is over 700 liters of volume of surface area, which is insane when you think about it. Just each rock is just full of all these porous holes. So there's so much surface area. And the other thing that's actually really cool about the matrix is because some of the holes go so deep that oxygen doesn't actually get to it, which means that the type of bacteria that turns the ammonia into nitrite and then a nitrite into nitrate, there's another type of bacteria which is an anaerobic bacteria. What that does is it actually eats the nitrate and it turns it into another chemical which is actually, it's toxic. It's I think it's like a sodium something. It's not like a sodium chloride, but it's like a toxic sort of chemical. But that chemical immediately oxidizes upon touching oxygen, So basically, they create this gas in these little pockets with no oxygen, and then the tiny little bubbles come out, immediately oxidize into a completely harmless gas, like literally immediately, which then goes to the surface and basically causes no problems for your fish, right? So basically what this matrix does, and having that extra, those super deep pockets where this anaerobic bacteria can survive, basically means that it cuts down on the basically means that you've got like a full cycle. Like basically means that you can do less water changes because you've got a type of bacteria that actually eats this. Because the main reason why you do water changes in a fish tank is to remove nitrates. That's the main reason. So since I don't have to do that because I don't have to do that as much because I've got this other type of bacteria, it just means that it's less full maintenance, but a water change is easy. It only takes like 30 minutes to do a water change on this tank. Anyway, let's move on to August the 5th. That's when I put about half of the stocking of my old tank, because I didn't want to overload it. You never want to put too much fish into a tank at once, because the fish tank is the bacteria is it's cycled, it's used to a certain amount of waste, but then when you add more fish, there's now more waste, and you have to there's a period where you have to wait for the bacteria to catch up. So basically I put 4 lepidanios and 2 peppered cories, which is half the stocking, into the tank. And this is where immediately my not washing the sand came as a huge problem. Okay, so this is a pretty shitty picture because it's a screenshot from my stream. Down here in the bottom right hand corner, you can see the one of the cories, and actually you can see one of the danios up in the top left. All 4 of them are up there, but the image is cut off because whatever. But basically what the cories do is they sift through the sand looking for like worms and things to eat. Like that's their primary source of food, right? So what these cories did was start kicking up the sand and immediately just turned this into a huge fucking mess. Okay, so you can see it's immediately a lot more cloudy. Like if I just go back, you can see this image. It's fine. It's not actually. This is actually quite clear. It's just the light is blowing it out a little bit. But like in here, you can see it's very cloudy. You can see the rotala. It's finally growing its little bushels. You can see the Ludwigia is getting bigger, and you can see the Hygrophila. Look, he's all the way up to here now. So he's growing pretty well. And you can see that the bacteria on this piece of wood it's actually mostly gone now. It's almost fully cycled, which is like another reason why I chose to put the fish in. And you can see that algae that I mentioned before. Like, look at it. It's growing. It's unseemly. It's disgusting. But we'll get to that. So August the 5th, put the fish in. Yeah. Okay. August the 5th. Sorry. I thought I had another image there. So August the 5th, we put the fish in. We checked the water quality. We maintained it for a few days, and then August the 11th, we decided to put the rest of the fish in. So now we've got the 7 lepidanios, the same 2 peppered cories, and the white cloud mountain minnow, as well as the German blue ram. So that's August the 11th. We put those fish in. This is a image with all the fish in it now. You can see it's still very cloudy, and look, like the added waste from the fish. Look at this algae. It's gone completely wild just in like the space of a few days. So what I've had to do with this piece of algae here is like when I do a water change, I just suck it off with the hose. Like it actually comes off quite easily. But you can see here's all the danios. There's the minnow. There's one of the cories just swimming vertically. Can we find the ram in this image? I don't think so. Is he in the next image? No, there's one of the cories there. There's the ram. Look at him right there, just chilling. He's having a good time, living his best life. So, and you can also see how quickly that rotala is growing, because that's August the 11th. Then this is August the 13th, and then this is August the 18th. See how quickly, you can actually see how quickly that plant is growing, like almost in real time. Look at that. That's the 5th, 11th, 13th, 18th. Sorry. It's the 11th, and then the 13th, and then the 18th. And this image, I've turned the saturation a little bit up, just so, because honestly, the camera is not great. Like this is more what it looks like in real life. Like with this sort of, like everything is lush and green, and I just think the camera washes it out. So some of the pictures I've turned the saturation up a little bit, just so you can see like the plants are actually green. They're not like this washed out gross color. And the light also, this is all like stuck on the sand. Like the sand is in the water and it's washing it out. And you can actually see, I did a water change, obviously, because the algae got sucked off of the wood in the top. Look at the difference. So this is post water change. This is after water change. But there's still heaps of it around. It's just some of it wouldn't come off. And that's August the 18th. And then from August the 18th, there's no real update until yesterday. So yesterday was August the 23rd today is August the 23rd. Yesterday is August the 22nd, when I decided, you know what? I'm going to go to the fish store and it was payday as well. So I'm going to go to the fish store and I'm going to buy a bunch of new fish. I was very excited. I've been looking forward to it. The tank is finally in a good position for it. And this is the 23rd of August. This is today. This is a picture I just took before this. You can see it's a pretty dog shit picture, but I added a bubbler, and you can see some of the plants are growing. And the magic of my brand new fish. Look at the algae. There is absolutely no algae up there, which is just like, look at that. That's the last picture. That's August the 18th. And then boom, look at that. Gone. Completely gone because of these beautiful little Siamese algae eaters, which we'll talk about in a second. So this is a better image. You can see the Danios are swimming around nice and happy. You can see some of the small new fish down there. These are the algae eaters, which are really cool. There is a sucker incestuous catfish in here somewhere, but he's currently underneath the wood, so you won't see him. Well, actually, I'm looking over my shoulder now. He's actually eating on the glass, so maybe when I switch over to the live cam, you might be able to spot him. But yeah, so this is a picture just taken today, and here is a bit of a picture. This is my current stock of the tank. So we've got one of these incestuous bristle noses, one of the white cloud mountain minnows, which is actually this is the first fish that I got, this mountain minnow. So all of his family have just like died of old age pretty much in the and because of other reasons and whatever, but he's still kicking around, living his best life. We've got 8 of these Rummy nose Tetras, which you will see pretty shortly. The same German ram, 4 of these algae eaters, 7 of the leopard danios, and 2 of the peppered cories. I wanted to get more peppered cories, but I wanted to get more cories at all. But when I went to the fish store yesterday, they only had a species which is called it's a black Venezuelan cory, and it's really cool. It's a jet black fish with orange tints on the ends of its fins, but the fucking things were $40 each. The algae eaters are like $20 each. The Tetras are like $10 each. The incestuous was $20, but those cories are $40 each. I just couldn't, honestly. I just kind of I couldn't really do it. But I believe so. That's the current stock list, and that's really good for now. I do want to add more cories, and I also want to add another sort of feature fish. So my German ram is my feature fish right now. But there's another one that I really want to add, which is a species of Apistogramma, which will likely come in a future video. So we won't talk too much on that. But basically, I'm going to switch over to the live camera in a sec, so you guys can kind of get what the fish are doing currently right now as we speak. But I'm going to do one of these update videos probably every like couple months or so, or whenever something new happens. I think because I think it'd be fun to sort of, especially for you guys and also for me, just to document the you know, the process of this whole thing, maybe for the whole first year of the fish tanks thing. So anyway, I'll switch you guys over to the live cam for about 5-10 minutes. Have a look, enjoy, and then I will talk to you guys later. So thanks for watching.